I literally imagined this moment so many times in my head. It was just so surreal, and I was just so over the moon and so happy in that moment. Hi ladies, thanks for stopping by. My name is Helen. If you're new here, welcome. If you're coming back here, welcome back. I have been on the IVF journey for almost 3 years, and I traveled back and forth from California to Korea in order to get IVF treatments back to back. And I am finally pregnant now and entering my third trimester pretty soon. Actually, tomorrow is the beginning of my third trimester. I am 42 years old. I will be 43 next month. It was just a long journey for me because of the fact that, of course, my age. I'm also older, but I have low AMH and diminished ovarian reserve, which basically means that I have a lot less eggs than other women my age. And so it just took a long time for me to get to that perfect golden egg, but here we are. If any of you are interested in getting IVF in Korea like me, where it's much more affordable and the care is really advanced there, then that is something that I help a lot of women with. I connect them to the best hospitals in Korea and connect them to the best doctors. If this sounds like something that's an option for you, then I recommend that you go to bloomkorea.co and sign up for the free consultation that they have. The ladies there will take really good care of you. Just let them know that I sent you, and you can find out if Korea is the right choice for you. I've received a lot of requests to share my protocol, and so I went through a lot to try to get my medical records in order to share it with you. I'm going to share with you my STIM protocol as well as my transfer protocol. But I think that medication is just, it works differently for everybody. So I wouldn't say that just because I did this protocol, it means that you should follow the exact same one. You and your doctor really need to test out which medication and doses work for you. Just take this with a grain of salt, but because a lot of people have asked me for my protocols, here I am sharing it with you guys. Everything sort of started happening for me in 2025 when I just sort of gave up. 2025 was the year that I manifested my baby, and I remember I had just gotten done with a fresh transfer from January that did not work out, and I was so devastated. It was my 4th transfer. I had already had like 13 egg retrievals before that. I was so sick of IVF, and I was at the point where I was just like, oh, screw this. I just want to move on with my life. I still had a couple of embryos left at my previous hospital, and so I went back there and got a new doctor, and this new doctor gave me an ultrasound. Well, he didn't give me the ultrasound, but the technicians, I guess, they were the ones that gave me an ultrasound, and we realized that we had a lot of follicles that cycle. And so even though I had mentally given up, my body was like, okay, it's time to go. And so this is the cycle where we saw a bunch of follicles, and I believe that was due to PRP and DHEA, which I have also made videos on. I'll link it up here for you guys. If you haven't taken a look at those videos, then I recommend that you start with the PRP one. Okay, but anyway, this is the cycle where I was seeing a lot of follicles, a lot more follicles than normal. Normally I would get like maybe 1 or 2, but this cycle I saw like 8 or 9. I can't remember. So let's take a look. Okay, so I started on February 4th. This was when I went in for the ultrasound, and I was like, oh, I've given up on IVF. I just want to transfer the rest of my embryos and go. But even though my mind was made up like that, my body was like, okay, no, you have a lot of follicles. And the doctor was like, let's go. So that day I got my medication. It's a little different from the States, where in Korea you just pick up your medication at the hospital the day of. The doctor can prescribe medication for you the day of, and then you just go downstairs and pick it up and start stimming that day. And so it's super easy. I told the doctor, okay, well, if we're going to stim, I really want to go back to this medication, which is Folitrope, which is basically FSH, because this is the medication that made me feel the least crappy. And I had the best outcomes with this medication, this brand. And so Folitrope is what I asked for. He gave me 150 IU of that, and it was subcutaneous and once daily for 4 days in the morning. I usually just gave myself a shot at like 10 or 11 in the morning. I wasn't too strict about the time. He also prescribed me IVF-MHP. IVF-MHP is human menopausal gonadotropin, HMG. So he also prescribed this on top of the Folitrope, and that's 75 IU subcutaneous. So this one was like a cocktail where it was a powder that you had to mix in with a solution right then and there and mix it together and then give yourself the shot. It wasn't pre-filled like my Folitrope. So I took that once daily for 4 days, same thing. And then I went back on February 8th, 4 days later. Ooh, my kitties are fighting. 4 days later, I went back. He prescribed me the same thing, once daily, 3 days. February 11th, we started seeing a lot of little follicles, I remember. That's when he increased my dosage from 150 IU to 225 IU. And so everything else was the same except for this. He increased my Folitrope. February 14th, Valentine's Day, we took the same dosage, continued on for 3 days. Every single time that I went back to the hospital, we would do a scan and we would check to see that I was on track. We added the antagonist protocol, which is basically it blocks you from ovulating. And this is because my biggest follicle had reached like 15 millimeters and we didn't want me to ovulate early, which happens to a lot of older women. And then you have to cancel your cycle and it's a whole thing. And so we added this shot. So that one I actually was told to start taking the day after, start on the 15th. And then February 17th, 3 days after I had last gone to the hospital, I went back, and then these are the different meds that I was prescribed then. FSH as usual, 225 IU, and then the antagonist. This one was also subcutaneous, and then Ovidrel is like the HCG trigger. He gave me a single trigger dose. I thought it was double, but I guess it was single. I get them mixed up because some of my doctors gave me double trigger shots, but I guess this time I took the single. We also started taking cefuroxil, which is basically antibiotics. And you know, there's another one that they usually prescribe to women, but I didn't take that one because I'm allergic to that one. And so I took this 3 times a day for 4 days. It was the day before my transfer that I started taking it, and I took it for 4 days straight, 3 times a day. Okay, so the key takeaways is that my protocol is called a step-up antagonist protocol, tailored for somebody who's older, 42, with diminished ovarian reserve and gradual FSH escalation with added LH support. So FSH would be the Folitrope. Folitrope is actually a Korean brand, so I wouldn't go looking for it outside of Korea, but it's always been the medication that has worked for me. My second IVF doctor kept trying to prescribe me Menopur, or I don't remember the name of the medication, but anyway, it was something else. And she said it's the best for women that are in their 40s. But it just did not make me feel good, and I was just not getting good results from it. So just because that medication is great for older women doesn't mean that it's like the perfect medication for me. For me, FSH worked the best for me. Antagonist used to prevent premature ovulation, and then we had a carefully timed HCG trigger. Okay, now I'm going to go over my frozen embryo transfer protocol, And that actually happened way later. So my my stimulation cycle was back in February, and I actually did another egg retrieval right after that, and then nothing ended up happening from that cycle. I remember I didn't get any embryos from that cycle, so I was like, oh, okay, what? I just wasted a whole month doing that. But after that cycle, I basically came back to the States, and what was supposed to be like a 1 month or maybe 2 month break ended up becoming a 4 month break. And honestly, I'm just so glad that I took that time for myself to work on my relationship with my husband, with whom I had been so far apart from for like 2-3 years. We hadn't really been living together because I had just been traveling back and forth for IVF to Korea. And so I think that period of time to just kind of reset was so important for me, even though I knew in the back of my head, oh, I'm getting older, I have to hurry up and get the ball rolling. I still feel like it was the best decision that I made to sort of mentally and emotionally prepare myself for the transfer. Okay, so July 4th is when I got back to Korea, July 4th, 2025. I timed my trip with when I would be doing a hysteroscopy, because you're supposed to do a hysteroscopy exactly 1 cycle before your FET, your frozen embryo transfer. And during that hysteroscopy, my doctor was able to do the endometrial scratching, which tends to improve your implantation rates by 10 to 15%, which is significant. I did a video on that before too, so I'll link that up here. Okay, now to my protocol. My frozen embryo transfer I don't feel like there was anything like really particularly special about my frozen embryo transfer. It was just a fully medicated cycle. So July 28th, it was the 2nd day of my period. And that's when I went in for the first time after my hysteroscopy. And I was prescribed Progenova, which is basically estrogen, 2 milligrams orally 3 times a day. This was basically to thicken my endometrial lining. Okay, August 6th, progesterone started, Prolutex. So August 6th was when my lining was thick enough for me to begin progesterone shots. 25 milligrams of the Prolutex, which is the name of the drug, subcutaneously once daily. And I took that in the morning, sometime between 10 and 11. I don't think the timing matters that much. This is a vaginal suppository. He prescribed Crinone for me on August 6th when I went, and basically told me to start taking it on August 8th. So 90 milligrams once daily, and this was right before bed because it can get a little uncomfortable. It starts leaking out. It's like a tampon where you insert this gel inside, and it's not comfortable. But it's best if you do it right before bed, because then you could just go to sleep and then it does its thing. This was additional progesterone support. So on August 13th, the frozen embryo transfer happened. And I was actually expecting, out of 4 embryos, that we would transfer 3 embryos. But I got to the clinic and I saw that there were only 2 embryos. And this is when I realized, oh, okay, 2 of them did not make the thaw. So we ended up transferring 2 embryos. Sorry, I'm so out of breath because I'm getting so big now. Right after my embryo transfer, I did IVIG, which I did a video on last time. So this is basically 2 bags of IV that I got on the day of the frozen embryo transfer. 2 vials, it says, right? 10 grams transfer day, yeah. And this is supposed to basically suppress your immune system a little bit so that your blood cells don't attack your embryo. I had slightly elevated NK cells, and so this is something that we just tried. We were just throwing everything at the wall because we knew that this would be my last time. Okay, August 23 was my HCG. It was my first beta. This is basically the blood test to confirm that you are pregnant or not. And I had not tested at home throughout my entire 2-week wait. I will do a different video on that, my 2-week wait. Basically, I had not tested because I just did not want to drive myself crazy like I had in my previous transfers. And so, yeah, I just waited until my beta. But my beta ended up falling on a Saturday, which means that I wouldn't get my lab results back for a few days. And that was annoying. So I decided, like a day later or something like that, that I would just test at home because I did not want to wait for my beta results if I had to wait another few days. And so I ended up taking the pregnancy test at home. So the nurse from my doctor's office called me shortly after I took my home pregnancy test, and she was like, "Congratulations, you're pregnant and your HCG is 307, which is a very healthy number for 10 days post-transfer." And I remember feeling so happy in that moment. I had envisioned that moment in my head over and over and over again, of me picking up the phone and the nurse telling me, "Congratulations, you're pregnant." It was just so surreal, and I was just so over the moon and so happy in that moment. My next beta was 4 days later. They just wanted to check to see that my beta was rising normally. A normal rise in beta HCG would be your numbers doubling every couple of days. It doesn't always work like that. Sometimes it's slow in the beginning and then it just shoots up. But for the most part, your HCG should double every couple of days. And so after the 307, 4 days later, when I tested again, we wanted to make sure that it was above 1,000. And then we would confirm that, oh, okay, this is a pretty strong pregnancy. But instead of 1,000, we got 3,057, which was 10 times what it was 4 days earlier. And so that was considered an appropriate rise. An appropriate rise. And I was just over the moon. Like, that had never happened to me. It was such a high number, and I was just so excited and so happy at that point. Oops. Okay, and week 7, we stopped all my medication, and that's when the placenta takes over and starts to produce its own hormones. And then week 9 is when I was graduating from the fertility clinic. So I had finally graduated from IVF. You guys, it was just such a monumental moment for me because I had been at the IVF clinic for like 3 years. And so it was just such a big step for me to graduate. So that was basically my fully medicated frozen embryo transfer protocol. And yeah, there was nothing that crazy about this protocol. The only new thing that was added was the IVIG. And then all the other stuff that I did to prepare for the transfer, I prepared on my own and not with the hospital. I hope that sharing this information with you is helpful, but please also know that what works for me might not work for you. So it's really important that you talk to your doctor and figure out what protocol matches your body the best and what's best for your circumstances. Thank you so much for sticking with me through all of this. And if you enjoyed this video, please like it and please subscribe to my channel and please share this video with somebody that you feel like this video might help. I will talk to you guys very soon.